What's happening, everyone? So today's set of exam questions, there's 6 questions in here. They're all to do with setting up and solving equations, all to do with shapes. Okay, so what you have to keep in mind with this is what the properties are of the shapes that you're given. Try and process the information in the diagram as best as you can, and then try to get an equation from that. Okay, so these first two, the rectangle and the triangle underneath, these are both hopefully really, really easy. You might not even need to set up an equation for this one. Okay, so you're going to come across a lot of rectangles. Now remember, a rectangle, the main properties of a rectangle are that these two sides are exactly the same and that these two sides are exactly the same. Okay, so you can probably just spot what x is going to be for this, but the equation, there are 2 equations that you could set up. It's up to you. You can either put that thing equal to that thing or that thing equal to that thing and then solve those equations to get your value of x. Okay, so that's what you need to do for that one. On this one, this time notice we've got the angles, and we've got the angles inside a triangle. Now you know what the angles inside a triangle add up to, so you can add them up and then put equals that number, whatever they add up to, and then you can solve that equation. Okay, so pause the video, have a go at those, and then when you're ready, continue on. Okay, so the 2 equations that you could have set up are either saying this one equals this one, which is x plus 1 equals 6, or you could have said that x minus 1 equals this one. Either way, dash line down your equal sign. So you only had to do one of these things, by the way. Minus 1 from both sides, or plus 1 to both sides, but either way, you end up with an answer of 5 there. Okay, now if you've done that, if you've got the answer to 5 but without having done these 2 things, that's absolutely fine for the time being, but it is important that you know what I've done there. Because that is the same as that, that's a property of a rectangle, that's why I can put that equals in the middle there. Okay, and because that is the same as that, that's why I can put that equals in the middle there. And when I put that equals in the middle, it's an equation, and we can do our dash lines and add things to both sides, take away from both sides and all that. Okay, so part B, what do the angles inside a triangle add up to? Well, they add up to 180, don't they? So 3y, add 2y, add another 1y, must equal 180. So when we get one like this, where it's sort of like different things with y's in, we need to simplify that. 3y add 2y add 1y, it's going to be 6y equals 180. So y, if I divide both sides by 6, y there will be 30. Okay, and that's what we were asked to figure out, wasn't it? Find the size of the angle marked y. Well, y is 30 there. Okay, so hopefully that kind of sort of starts you to think about the kind of things that we need to be doing here. Okay, so let's have a little question 2. Right, this one a little bit trickier, more going on, trickier shapes to deal with. Okay, so that's trapezium, that's a rectangle, that's all that means at the top. Okay, all measurements are in centimetres, not particularly important. We know that our answer is going to be in centimetres down here anyway. The 2 shapes have the same perimeter. Dead important. Okay, and what I want to figure out is work out the length of ST. So I want to know what that length of the rectangle is in terms of centimetres. So because things have the same perimeter, what we can say is the perimeter, you wouldn't really need to write this down, but I'm sort of going to tell you what, how we're going to sort of work through this. We're going to figure out what the perimeter of ABCD is, and then we can say, because it's the same, we can say that equals the perimeter of STUV. Okay, so if I can get expressions for both of those things, I can set them equal to each other, and then I can solve that equation to figure out what x is. And then once I know what x is, it means that I do 5 times that number for x, add 5, and that gives me what ST is. Okay, so can you pause the video and have a go at this one, please? And then when you're ready, we'll carry on. Okay, so what you should have done, the perimeter for this one let's add it all up, okay? So 5x, add the top line, which is 7x minus 2, add the line on the right, which is another 5x, add the line on the bottom, which is 9x minus 2, will equal the perimeter of this one. Now, even though you've only been given these two, we know that because that's a rectangle, the bottom will also be 5x, add 5, and the left will also be 4x, just the same as those two. So this is going to equal this, add this, add this, add this. 5x add 5, add 4x, add 5x, add 5, which is the bottom one, and add 4x, which is the left, okay? Now, that probably looks awful to you. You might not have wanted to do it that way. You could have done, basically I'm setting this all out at once at the top, and then I'm going to just simplify it all. You could have sort of added all this up yourself in your head, basically by doing 5, let's look at the x's, 5, add 7, add 5, add 9, well there's 10x, add 7x, 17x, add 9x is going to give me 26x, minus 2 is minus 4. This one, same thing, let's add up the x's. 5 add 5 is 10, add 4 is 8, so that's 18x. 5 add 5 is 10. So that's the equation that we wanted to get to. That's the really crucial part of the question. If you don't get to there, we can't do anything with this, okay? So now that we've got this equation, we need to solve it. So this is where we put our dashed line down, our equal sign, and you know what I'm going to say next? Get rid of the smallest x term. So I'm going to take away 18x from both sides, which is going to give me 8x minus 4 equals 10. It's 26 to 18, isn't it? Yep. 8x minus 4 equals 10. Add 4 to both sides. So it's going to give me 8x equals 14. And 14 divided by 8 is going to give me 1.75. Okay, so divide both sides by 8. And x will equal either 14 over 8 or 1.75. Okay, you can write it as either of those. So what that means is that every single x that we had in the question to start off with was actually the number 1.75 all along. Okay, so if I now want to go back and figure out what that top line is, that x there actually represents 1.75. So to figure out the length ST, I need to do 5 times 1.75 add 5. Okay, just get the calculator. 5 times 1.75 add 5. So our answer here is 13.75. Okay, now don't worry too much if you didn't manage to get all of that, but it is important. You would have got method marks for attempting to add that up or add that up, and attempting then to set them equal to each other and solve it. Okay, but that process is really common in exam questions. They give you the information to be able to set up the equation, and then they ask you to solve the equation and use your answer to figure out something from the original information. Okay, so on to question 3 then. Right, little bit different again this one. In the diagram, all the measurements are in meters. That's not important really. The perimeter of the triangle is 56 meters. That is important. Okay. What that means is that if I add all the sides of that triangle up, it will equal 56. So if I do that, add that, I can then write equals 56 at the end of it. And again, that is going to be an equation that I can then solve. And once I've solved it, if you look at what you're being asked for this time, being asked to work out the area. Now to figure out the area, I need to know that side and I need to know that side. I don't use the hypotenuse when I'm figuring out area. I'm going to do a half times base times height. Okay, so use the perimeter to set up an equation and solve it. Once you solve the equation, figure out what 3 lots of your answer for x is and what your answer for x minus 1 is, and then do that times that divided by 2, and that's your area. Okay, so pause the video, have a go at that, and then come back when you're ready. Okay, so what you should have been doing here was x minus 1 plus 3x plus 1 plus 3x equals 56, and then simplifying this, 3x, add 3x, add x, which is 7x. And then minus 1 plus 1 will disappear. So we'll just end up with 7x equals 56. So it's a nicer equation to solve this time. So divide both sides by 7. So we get that x equals 8. Okay? And if x equals 8, it means that the sides on the triangle, this side is 3 lots of 8, which is 24. And this side is 8 minus 1, which is 7. So the area will be the base times by the height divided by 2. Or half times base times height. And that's just going to give us 84 meters squared for our area. Okay? So well done if you got that one. But again, if you didn't, just try and make sure that you're getting these first steps. Because once you get the first steps in these questions, the rest of it does start to fall into place. Okay? You solve an equation, you use the answer, you figure out something else. Right, let's have a look at question 4. Okay, so rectangle, trapezium, all measurements are in centimetres, and again, the perimeters of the two shapes are the same. So this one is very similar then, isn't it, to this? Okay, we are talking here about two shapes having the same perimeter, which is exactly what we did on question 2. So you're going to do exactly the same thing, figure out the perimeter of that, figure out the perimeter of that, set them equal to each other, figure out what x is, and then you want the area of the rectangle. So to be able to do that, I need to know what x is, and I need to know what 4x is, and I need to know what 3x add 4 is, and then times them together. Okay? Just before you start on this, just one little hint, you do not use that 4x for anything. Okay? So pause the video and have a go at the question, please. Come back when you're ready. So what you should have been doing, firstly, I would mark these two sides on. That's 3x plus 4, and that's 4x. Okay? So the perimeter of this is going to be 3x plus 4 plus 4x plus 3x plus 4 plus 4x, and that will equal the perimeter of this, which is x minus 3 plus 5x plus 7x minus 3 plus 5x. Okay, there's my big equation. Let's group your x's together. 3x add 4x add 3x add 4x. Well, that's going to give us 14x. And then the plus 4 and the plus 4 will be plus 8. And in this one, 1x add 5x add 7x add 5x is going to give us 18x. 5 add 5 is 10, add 7 add 1, 18x. Minus 3 is minus 6. So once we're at that point, I can now put a dashed line down the middle of the equal sign, get rid of the smallest x, and solve to figure out what x is. So minus 14x from both sides. So we get 4x minus 6 and 8 on the left hand side. Add 6 to both sides. It's going to give you 14 equals 4x. Divide both sides by 4 and we get left with 3.5 for x. Okay, so what that means is that every x in the question was actually the number 3.5. So it means that my rectangle at the top, 4x is going to be 4 times 3.5, and this one will be 3 times 3.5 add 4. So it actually means 4 times 3.5. It actually means the width of it was 14, and it means that the length was 14.5. Okay, so the area so there's the actual rectangle now that I've translated the sides into proper numbers using x. So the area will be 14.5 times 14. Just do that on your calculator and we get 203 centimeters squared. Okay, well done if you managed to get that. Remember, don't get put off by these big long lines of working out. It just means that you're going to simplify that by like adding things together. Okay, so on to question 5. So we are getting to ones that now are a little bit trickier. Okay, the last two are the hardest ones here, I think. So again, in the diagram, all measurements in centimetres. The perimeter of the quadrilateral is twice the perimeter of the triangle. Work out the perimeter of the quadrilateral. Okay, so we're going to use the underlined part in yellow to set up the equation. And then, once we solve that equation, we can concentrate on figuring out the bits in green. Okay, so what this means, this bit in yellow, means that if I add this up and double it, I will get this one. Okay, so I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. I'm going to add this one up first, separately, and then times it by 2. So I'm going to do this one over here. I'm going to do x add 3, add 5, add x add 3. That's going to give me 2x, add 11. And then I'm going to times that by 2. I'm going to double it. I have to double both things. So that gives me 4x plus 22. Okay. So that is this one doubled. So that 4x plus 22 must be the same as this. So let's add all these up. Okay. So 2x plus 2x minus 1 from the top plus x minus 3 from the right plus 3x will equal this. So that is the equation that I can get from that line. Okay. Now let's simplify the left hand side. 2x and 2x is 4x, 5x, 8x, minus 1 minus 3 is minus 4. We've now got it in the way that we want it. We can solve it, get rid of the smallest x term, so minus 4x from both sides, plus 4 to both sides to get rid of that minus 4 there, so we get 4x equals 22. Divide both sides by 4 and we get x equals 5.5 there. Okay. So if I now want to figure out the perimeter of the quadrilateral, I've got a choice here. What I can do is use the 5.5 to sub into all of these. So double it, take away 1, do 5.5 minus 3, do 3 lots of 5.5 and then add all those numbers up. But I can be a little bit clever here because I've actually written down an expression for the perimeter of that quadrilateral here. The left-hand side of this equation was all to do with the quad, wasn't it? Which means that that simplified version of it there is what I would get if I add all of those up again. Okay, so what I can do is just put the 5.5 into there. So I can do 8 times 5.5 minus 4, and that gives me 40. Okay, so the difficulty there was, I think anyway, was processing that into knowing which one of these two things you need to double, and then basically just getting to there again. Once you've got to there, the rest of this is pretty standard. Okay, well done if you managed to get that one. Right, and question 6. So here's the rectangle, all measurements in centimetres. The area of the rectangle is 48. Show that y is 3. So let's just try and process this first, okay? The area of the rectangle is 48 centimetres squared. Show that y equals 3. So if I want to show that this thing is a rectangle, and I'm saying that that's 3, 3 times this must give me 48. So I need to prove that this is whatever 48 divided by 3 is. Okay? So the way that I have to do that is I have to set up an equation and figure out what x is, and then sub that into either this one or this one. Okay? So if you start this one by doing 48 divided by 3, it will tell you what that side must equal. Then set up an equation using the diagram. Now think about it, it's a rectangle, so what can I say about these two sides here and here? Solve your equation, figure out what x is, and use x to figure out what the actual length of the rectangle is. Okay, pause the video, have a go, come back when you're ready. Okay, so if I was to do 48 divided by 3, it gives me 16. I can't use the 16 yet because I have to prove that this thing is 16. So I can't prove that it's 16 by just saying it's 16. I need to prove that when I solve this equation and use my x, it gives me an answer of 16. Okay, so what I can now do is say, well, because it's a rectangle, that's going to be the same as that. So 2x add 6 equals 5x minus 9. Let's get rid of your smallest x term. Add 9 to both sides. So we end up with 15 equals 3x. Divide both sides by 3. And we get that x is 5. Okay. Now what that means is that every single x in the diagram actually is the number 5. So let's have a little look at this side. Then that's 2 lots of 5, add 6. 2 times 5, add 6. 2 times 5 is 10, add 6 is 16. Okay, so we're done. Because we wanted to get 16 and we've got 16 there. Okay, could I suppose have just done this bit at the end and said, well, if the area is 48, 48 divided by 16 equals 3, therefore y equals 3, and we've proved it that way. Okay, but it's a tough question, that one, just to kind of know how to put it all together. Okay, so once you finish with that, email me any problems, and then can you just take a photo of, it doesn't have to be all of this, you can take a photo of all of it if you want to, but just take a photo of some of it to just make sure, to just let me know that you have done it. Okay, thanks very much.